deck or whatever. Anyway.
Well, hey,
I'm sorry, I just
no,
wanna-
you're good. That wind chart, that's
Ross, did you take a nap?
No, I just went outside and walked around a little bit.
Kinda got
smoked
that
a
look
cigar,
there.
He's
enjoyed
probably
it.
getting bored, man.
No,
He's
I'm
got a
not.
look in his eye like,
Okay. No, I thought maybe.
You know what? I'm just mesmerized by these deer.
Yeah.
Very
These?
good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, been
chasing him.
chasing them, yeah. There's a lot, you know, you should see the other 200 that burn up.
Yeah, I was thinking that one. I just didn't want to bring it up because I thought, I didn't know if this was a sore topic with a foot down there and up in my left
He's
jaw.
brought it up 3-4 times. But I don't think it's.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I remember Michigan Bow Hunters Association,
Mhm.
back when they were probably a little more stronger than maybe they are today. Maybe that doesn't have anything to do with it really, but
Mhm.
they used to, there was a Flint chapter. You would probably remember, you and your brother came to, it was out in Davison, Michigan, so Flint, Michigan to you.
Mhm.
But there was probably 350, 400 people at a hall, we'll say, or a banquet hall.
Mhm.
And you guys were the speakers or the presenters or the show.
Mhm.
So we had dinner, there was a silent auction and that type of thing. It was a fundraiser for their efforts.
Mhm.
And you and your brother were there.
Mhm.
And so there was me, my brother, my dad, and my brother's oldest son was there. And I was telling Bob about this, and he said, I think I remember the year that we were arguing about when that was. Like,
Mhm.
none of us really could remember. And but I remember you and your brother had, like you said, when you work the crowd, as I kind of call it,
Mhm.
one would talk, kind of the other one's gathering his thoughts. And I remember at the very end, you guys had an anti-hunter send-off with a large pair of jeans.
Oh yeah, the Hunter's Moon?
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it was funny because it was in the back of my mind when my brother was talking, my brother Bobby, he says, hey, remember that? I said, I'm thinking of it right now. And it was perfect. You guys would take your hats off or whatever.
Yeah, we'd hold, in case you don't know, we'd hold a pair of blue jeans, a big wide pair of blue jeans up in front of our heads. And when my brother's bald head would get right next to mine, it looked like the Hunter's Moon, like you were mooning somebody and
Yeah,
stuff,
that's good,
But anyway, yeah,
that was fun. That was a great.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it was
Thank
a great
you.
time.
We've done those things again.
I stood in line
I'm
last,
embarrassed
and I
to
came
say
up
I
to
don't
the
even
spot.
remember.
Well, no, I mean you did, but I remember the thing is we got up to I had a couple of books,
Mhm.
but I saw one that I didn't have at the
Mhm.
time. And get up there. By the time I got there, gone.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
But,
Again, thing over the years, this is one of those situations that I probably spend more time in the woods than Gene. Gene used to, in fact, that was one of the biggest mistakes in my life was when we were in our 30s, again, two heads better than one. Anyway, he said, I think we should, write a book. And, and I was negative on it. And number one, I didn't want to become known as an authority. And number two, I just didn't want to draw attention to myself in the area and where I hunted. And anyway, I said to him, it was 1983, okay, or 81, now I can't remember, 81 I think it was. Anyway, I said to him that I would give him input, but I said, you write the book.
call that contributor.
Yeah, well,
the story,
anyway,
yeah.
and which is what he did, I mean, he wrote that, hunting, running whitetails, and in fact, the first 1,000 copies of it, the ones that are really valuable now, he had 1,000 of them printed that the title was Bow Hunting Running Whitetails, okay?
Well, you're talking about the video now.
No, not the video,
No, I know.
the book.
Brings me into that
The
next.
name of it was Bow Hunting Running Whitetails. And I said to him, why are you talking about bow hunting? The book is about whitetail hunting. And I said, you're limiting your market. Only people are buying it are bow hunters. Why don't you just call it running whitetails? So the next, he changed the title of it, the next one. So that's the ones that, that became famous. I don't even want to know how much he sold, it's supposedly more than any other, whitetail book,
yeah.
but Anyway.
Well, it was a great read, it was.
Well,
and a fast read, it
back
was fun
then,
reading.
it was unheard of. It was, now you read it and it's common knowledge. And back then, it was the unanswered questions.
Yeah.
We had deer biologists call us and said, you know, where'd you guys come up with this stuff? This is good. This is the missing piece of the puzzle, you know, and all this stuff, you know. And it was our own. It was theory which has since been proven fact. So that book was ahead of itself, you know. Yeah. And you know, he did really, really well on it. Anyway, then he wrote another one, and he wrote another one, and then I was approached about doing some videos. And the same thing, I didn't know if I was too selfish, and I didn't, you know. Anyway, I ended up, we did them. Actually, a lot of people don't know, I actually did 3 before Bow Hunting October Whitetails. And Bow Hunting October Whitetails, I shot 2 deer. They were both running, happened to be running, and that was supposedly the first 2 deer ever shot with a bow on, you know, on production video type of thing. And, you know, and they both happened to be running shots. And I'm not bragging, but I used to be a really good game shot. And I think I've always said most everybody has pulled off some really good shots in their life, and I just happen to have a camera behind me when it happened and stuff, you know.
That's a neat video. I mean,
it still sells every day.
I
now, I mean,
I
it's,
bought
you
a
know,
copy not long ago because I thought,
yeah,
I went to Bay Archery, the little
no,
archery
it's like
shop, and they didn't
37,
have it.
38 years ago or whatever,
Yeah.
and they still sell them every day type of thing, you know. But as I said, the reason they were so popular, number one, they were ahead of their time, and number 2, they were honest.
Yeah.
In other words, you could go in the editing room of a video and make it look like you never, a lot of guys do, make it look like they never missed type of thing. Well, we did the honest part of it, and we showed the footage of if I missed, I missed, and if I got them, I got them.
So let me clarify this on that video then. So that piece right at the tail end, that's true then?
But what?
About you control for whitetails.
Sure.
Put a little. I was telling Ross about that, and he's kind of looked at me like, I guess like.
No, that's another thing why they were so popular, because I mean, I'm not a comic, but in other words, we were screwing. When you go hunting with your buddies, you're supposed to be having a good time, and you know, we were young guys screwing around, and you know, and a lot of that stuff is not acting. Right. I mean, we wouldn't shoot a deer and say, okay, now, you know, you point out where I hit them, and I'll clarify, you know, I had to shoot in a little hole, you know. I mean, in other words, it wasn't set up acting.
Right.
We would set up the camera and actually walk up to the deer, and it's the first time he ever saw it. I mean, right there.
Oh, he didn't have the camera showing the guy walk to the deer.
Yeah, right, like you'd never found it before, you know, but you know what I'm saying.
Tuck the tongue back in his mouth.
It was all for real, and people were able to you know, understand that and accept the fact, hey, these guys are doing it for the right reason. And I've had in fact, let me show you here, hold on. Yeah, I won't embarrass this guy. Let me see if I got this was it, I saw it earlier today. This is from I won't say his name, but a U.S. Marine Corps captain, okay, and he said, my dad showed me the VH version of Bow Hunting October Whitetails when I was not even a teenager yet. I spent my formative years hunting with my hat sideways, mimicking, this is a letter to my, you know, mimicking Barry. My friends idolized sports icons. I idolized Barry Wensel. As you know, again, here's a kid that I didn't even realize at the time that I was influencing kids that were not, you know, that were 10, 12 years old, wearing their hats crooked, you know, and hopeful. And that's important. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to hunt with some celebrities, you know, I mean, Jack Nicklaus, you know, I mean, we went to Africa with him and the whole works. I mean, I got to know him and his family. I mean, super, super people. Bo Jackson, Dale Earnhardt Sr., you know, I've done shows. I remember one time I did a sports show with Bo Jackson when he was in his prime. In fact, I hunted with him 3 or 4 different times, and the one time was when he won the Heisman Trophy, and then he went into baseball, and I sat there on the edge of the bed or foot of the bed with him and said, you know, how come you went to baseball when you won the Heisman Trophy? And he said because he figured he would, first of all, he said he thought he was a better baseball player than a football player. And secondly, he says, you're a Heisman, you're a marked man, they'll try to hurt you. Yeah. And, you know, anyway, and then the next year he played baseball, and then the next year he played them both sports. And I said, what about this? You're a marked man, you know, and you know, never mind, you know. But yeah. Anyway, my point is, I went to the sports shows and sat at the booth next to Bo Jackson in his prime, and I watched these little kids that would come up and they couldn't even talk. I mean, they were quivering with excitement that there's their idol hero. So I'm saying when Bo Jackson tells that 12-year-old kid don't use drugs, I mean, you better believe he's not going to use drugs. I mean, it's gonna hold some weight, and that's what I'm saying. When some young kid idolizes somebody, you know, be it me or whoever type of thing, I'm saying that we, as the ones being looked at or looked up to, need to realize that it's not okay to be rude and not okay to bend the law, and it's not okay to do things that you think nobody's looking, or you know, somebody's
do it right when you know nobody's
looking.
Looking.
Exactly. You know, so as I said, it's been interesting, but you know, if the truth were known, I mean, as I said, in fact, my wife just shakes her head in amazement, you know, about, you know, I cannot believe